Just 1 second here. All right, so I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I don't care. I'm going to try to get out as much of this as I can. This is an interview done by the Soft by Underbelly with Paul Hutchinson. He is a main person in the movie, not in the movie, but one of the main reasons why the movie Sounds of Freedom became in existence. Yeah. So I'm just going to get right into it.
Out my hands, and she put her little hands right here. And I said, "Como te llamas? What's your name?" And she didn't answer because I'm sure that her name wasn't Princess. And she was trying to figure out what the traffickers wanted her to say. And I just said, "Está bien. It's okay."
So Paul, you grew up where?
Grew up in Utah, Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm. Learned how to ski when I was a kid.
And what was it about your childhood that led you down this road to do this
Nothing,
kind of work?
Really. I had a beautiful childhood. I had 4 sisters. We lived in a great home. I had no idea what was happening outside of our bubble at all. People in our own neighborhood, I later found out, were dealing with unimaginable abuse. But I was in a bubble for.
So a lot of us think, and me included, that I know a lot and how bad child trafficking, human trafficking is in the United States and around the world for that part. We don't. We really don't. We have no clue.
For a long time, until I got into high school. And I was recruited by our vice principal to lead something called the peer leadership team. And it was helping kids with abuse in the home, drug and alcohol problems, et cetera, because kids couldn't go to a teacher and say something. And otherwise, sometimes that would be required to tell the authorities. So they had us as peer counselors. I went through a bunch of training. And in that, I realized how many problems people had that showed up in anxiety, depression, and fear and social problems. But really, they came from a broken home. They came from parents who didn't understand how to love them unconditionally. And even worse than that, parents and uncles and grandparents, people that they trust, who would do the unthinkable to these children, and they would carry this pain, and it would come out in so many ways. And one day, I remember I was in an AP, what was it? It was a calculus class. I've never used it one day since I was there, but and it was a test. It was like the biggest test of the year. Like a big part of our grade was on that. And the principal came in, whispered to my teacher in the ear. Teacher came over to my desk, wrote an A on my test. I hadn't even started it.
So you guys can watch it.
He said, "Your talents are needed." And I stood up, not understanding it. And I went outside and found out that one of the most popular kids had committed suicide the night before. And they couldn't let all the other kids go home because of, it would be more of a risk unless the parents came to get them. And so I needed to go in there and console these kids. And I came to realize, I wished that I had been able to get to this child before that had happened. And as we looked into it, he came from a very dysfunctional family. I get the question all the time. People leave our movie, The Sound of Freedom. I'm the primary investor and executive producer behind the movie Sound of Freedom. And people leave and they say, "I want to do something. I want to fight child trafficking." The worst thing you can do is go home, is go to Mexico and go try to rescue kids. You're going to get shot. We almost did many times. The best thing you can do is go home and hug your kids. And people are like, "How does that fix the problem? Just hugging them. I want to fight the bad guys." No, children who are being trafficked. First of all, the ones that get moved to other places in a container ship, whatever, like what you see in the movie, that doesn't happen very often. The majority of those children don't come from healthy homes. They come from runaways or broken families or broken foster care program. So the more you can do to create a healthy environment for your children at home, the better. And I started to understand that at an early age. And I tell people the best thing you can do is have a relationship with your kids where they can very comfortably come to you and say, "Hey, Dad, Mom, I don't like it when you tell me to hug Uncle Harry, because he touches me weird and he tells me that we should have secrets together. Or I don't like going to this babysitter because she says that we should trust her more than you, and now she's showing us pornography. Or we went to this friend's house and her brother was taking pictures of us when we're changing, and now he says he's going to show them around the school unless we do other things." These are grooming behaviors. They happen every day. And the majority, 2 months before taking the MCAT, I got in a major car accident, severed all the tails.
Gonna skip all this shit.
And you've been doing this kind of work since when?
The undercover work, a little over 10 years.
How did that start? Well,
I kind of set the stage. In my early 20s I didn't know where to donate money. I would give money to the guy on the side of the street that was asking about something that's pretty dark. He said, this is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. And good people don't even know this happening. And
The fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. And people don't even know what's fucking happening.
he started talking about human trafficking. And I'm like, trafficking? Like slavery?
Human trafficking.
I thought slavery disappeared at the time of Abraham Lincoln. He goes, no. He says, it's more today. He says, I'm not just talking about children being abused at home, which is enormous numbers. He said, sold human beings. There's more today than all 300 years of the transatlantic slave trade put together.
More sold human beings today than all 300 years of the transatlantic slave trade.
And then he started talking about child trafficking. And I couldn't imagine what somebody would do in paying for a child. But I mean, what does that look like? Just, labor and, having somebody sweep your floors. And when he told me that there was some agents that were in Colombia that had found some children that were being sold in sex organizations, I couldn't fathom that. I said, well, what can I do? He says, well, they found about 20 children down there. They need some help. The government wouldn't give them the money. They need like $50,000, and the government wouldn't give them the money because they couldn't prove that there was any Americans involved. And I'm thinking at the time I was on the board of directors for Make-A-Wish in our area, and $10,000 with Make-A-Wish I could send a little girl to Disneyland with her family, which was important. She's struggling with cancer, but here $50,000 we could pull 20 children out of hell and get them back to their families. And so it was an easy, yeah, I'll help. What can we do? A few weeks later, one of the agents called me. He said, Paul, I'm in Cartagena, Colombia. There's not just 20 children here. There's more than 50 that we've identified in some rings. He said there's more than 100 that are tied to similar rings in other cities. He said, we have a plan that we could rescue all of these children on the same day at the same time. If we just do one city, we're afraid that the word will spread and these guys will go underground. He said, I think we can rescue all of them, but I need your help in a big way. And, Ego Me is like, well, how much do you need? And he said, I need you. Can you be in Colombia in 2 days? He said,
okay, so I'm trying not to get struck here, but I'm trying to give you guys the idea here. Now, it goes on that he goes on to say how he goes to Colombia, he meets he sets up this party, and one of the main participants is a woman, and she says to him, they're going over the value of how much each child is worth, especially the virgins, and the one guy says to him, no less than $5,000. And Paul Hutchinson asks him, he's undercover at this time. He asks the Colombian drug lords or whatever, human traffickers, like, well, how much value do they lose after they lose their virginity? And the lady leads over to him and she says, oh no, they'll be virgins 8 or 10 times. We'll sell them out as virgin 8 or 10 times. There's actually doctors out there that will reconstruct the hymen for them for $200 a piece. So each one of these little girls and boys can be literally sold for no less than $5,000 to Americans, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Head trafficker has a piece of property that he wants to develop into a child brothel, like a sex resort type of a thing. He needs a few $1 million to build it out. And he believes he can make tens of millions of dollars a year selling children to wealthy Americans. And I said, well, what do you need my help with? He said, well, I can't teach my Navy SEALs how to negotiate a multi-million-dollar real estate deal with the cartel. He said they'll see through. I'm like, put my hands on my chest. I said, you don't think I can afford an extra $10,000? And there's a picture of an 11-year-old girl on his phone. These traffickers, and at first I thought, these aren't traffickers. The first trafficker I met was a businessman. He was clean shaven. He had a polo shirt on, well spoken. The next one I met was a female. She was like Miss Cartagena. She ran for a modeling school and whatnot. And I thought, these guys aren't traffickers. And when we sat down and started talking, and they started offering up children for sale for sex with this business plan that they could make all of this money selling children to guys like me, Like guys with big egos and big checkbooks and already climbed all these mountains. Now I want to do something. I couldn't believe that this was even a thing. And where it really hit home for me is about halfway through the conversation. I had one of the traffickers lean forward and he goes, Pablo, I have a gift for you.
Trigger warnings for everybody.
I said, really, what's your gift? And he leans forward and he hands me his phone. And there's a picture of an 11-year-old girl on his phone.
Oh my God. I don't know if I can do this again, dude. What's up, Jack? What's up, Martine? What's up, Cash? Listen to what he says.
He said, this is Princess. She's still a virgin. We just took delivery of some. She's my gift for you for this party. And I'm thinking, oh my hell, if we could get these children out before they're ever raped the first time, that would be a miracle. And he said she was still a virgin. I said, there's something he said made me realize he had more than her. I said, Fuego, I said, you have more virgins? He goes, oh yeah, I got 3 or 4 more. I said, now you're bringing those to my party too, right? Because he goes, oh no, he says, they're too expensive. I'm too expensive. I'm already paying this asshole $25,000. I'm paying him $500 per child for a minimum of 50 children just for 2 hours in the afternoon with him, right? He says, Jefe, which is boss, he goes, Jefe, you already paid $25,000. He says, you want to fuck those other virgins? It's going to cost you maybe $2,000, maybe $5,000 for that little one. It's going to cost you maybe $10,000 more. And at this point, I'm legitimately pissed. There's no acting involved. And ego Paul comes out. I'm like, put my hands on my chest. I said, you don't think I can afford an extra $10,000? He's like, oh no, Jefe, no. I said, I want.
Now remember, this is Paul Hutchinson. He literally got sent in undercover to do this.
He's the producer of Sound of Freedom.
He's the producer and sole proprietor. I think that's how you say it. He paid for all of it for the movie The Sound of Freedom.
Every one of those virgins at my party. I said, they damn well better be virgins when they get there. They're not for you. They're for me. You understand? He's like, oh, yeah, Jefe, I understand. His stupid smile on his face. Fast forward, our team had met with the U.S. Embassy, Colombian federal agents. Now, this is the basic story of what Sound of Freedom was built off of. We actually took 8 different rescue missions and put them all together, a bunch of different operators, and put them all into a few characters. But the first story that changed my life, that made me say, hey, I'm willing to put massive amounts of money and time behind creating awareness, was this. So what happened is they met with the embassy. These guys, the Colombian federal agents provided 40 agents for us. 4 of them were like our maids, 4 of them are our waiters and our cooks. They weren't very good cooks, but they're armed, right? And 25 of them are there to storm the party right at the right time. And so we're sitting there. I'm at this table outside. These guys had.
I got to give it a little bit of pauses here and there, you know what I mean? I'm just sitting here saying, like, this is a lot worse than even I realized. A lot worse. Cash says, is Candy playing there?
Hi, Cash.
Martine says, Miss Boss.
Martine.
And that's the whole thing. It's beyond all of those. It's beyond any words can say, really.
Brought 54 children, which is almost every one of them were under the age of 16, 17 years old. Many of them were taken from other countries as well. We put them all in this little separate house, this palapa,
yes,
grass roof thing. We're sitting outside negotiating. We have undercover cameras so that these guys can't later say, oh, you know, I thought these kids were coming for a pool party. No, we had to have a really dark conversation with these guys about exactly why those kids were there, what they were willing to do. And I'm sitting there at this table. And we once we had some basic information, we ordered tequila. Tequila was our sign where the waiters would go back, they would call it in, and the agents were supposed to come and storm the party within minutes. Well, we ordered the tequila. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20. It was 45 minutes later before the agents came. In the movie, we had some other things that did delay. The real delay, we had no idea what was going on. Later, we found out it was a lady from the Child Protective Services that slept through an alarm that said, oh, you guys can't do the operation until I'm there. She had to take a slow boat out. But we're sitting there, and the problem was at that point, they think it's time for the party to start. Fuego takes out the cocaine, puts it on the table. The others go into the house. One of them, Eduardo, goes in, and we could hear some of the children crying. And we're sitting here thinking, hell, where's the agents? We got to arrest these guys right now. We can't have this. And he comes out, and he has 4 virgins. He has 3 little girls and 1 little boy. This little boy was 11 years old. They gave him cocaine that morning because he was so scared it was going to hurt. What kind of fucked up monster thinks that that's attractive? This child was strung out on cocaine at 11 years old. They bring out these other 3 girls. One of them standing in front of me was the same one he showed me on that phone. The meeting before, 2 weeks before. She's now standing for, she has these long braids going down the back. She has a little kitty cat face on her shirt. And I'm looking at her eye level. I'm sitting on a chair just like this, and her standing up wasn't any taller than I was sitting down. And her makeup face was all smeared because she had been in there crying. She was scared of meeting me, the man who was supposed to rape her that day. And I thought, I am so glad it is us here and not some monster. And I held out my hands, and she put her little hands right here. And I said, "Come and take on this. What's your name?" And she didn't answer because I'm sure that her name wasn't Princess. And she was trying to figure out what the traffickers wanted her to say. And I just said, "It's the bed. It's okay." I couldn't blow our cover because the agents weren't there yet. We still had traffickers all around us that had brought these kids. And I said, "No." I said, "It is not time for this party to start." I said, "Take these kids back inside." I said, "You've just proven to me that you could provide what you said you could provide. Now is my time to provide. I told you I'd fund a project if you showed up with all your inventory. Let's do a business plan," right? It was just delay on my part. I had no idea when the agents were coming. Hey, we had no visibility of why the delay was happening. And so I said, "Bring me a piece of paper."
Went over the value of each child and how much their virginity comes into play and what they can do. This is the real part I wanted to yeah.
Bring me a pen. Let's do this business plan right now. Now, it was divine guidance that I was there. Not because I'm anything special, but because of the fact that I had negotiated hundreds of business plans in the past. This was not new territory for me, especially when it came to some real estate transactions. That's what I had done for the last 10 plus years. So I said, okay, let's draw this out. What is it going to be? We're going to keep the kids. What construction costs to put that together? Agents still were there. I'm like, hell. I said, well, let's make sure that you know your business. Tell me about the demand. Where's the demand? Can you guarantee that demand is here? Who are they? Where are they coming from? That's where we found out that it was guys with egos, arrogance, lust, coming from the United States that were coming down for the unthinkable. And these guys had history with hundreds of guys like this. And they were planning on charging $100,000 as a membership fee for wealthy pedophiles to come to Colombia and do horrific things at this resort they're putting together. And so I'm like, shit, this is heavy. Okay, so let's tell me about your inventory. You know, the
Sorry, it's hard for me, man.
kids that you brought, where are they coming from? You know, how much, and I remember writing down, because I'm doing a business plan, right? I'm writing it down. Okay, what does it cost for a little girl from Honduras, or a little boy from Colombia? You know, maybe $2,500 there. I said, what about a little girl from California? What about a little blonde girl that comes down? How much is it? He said, well, that's going to be about $25,000 instead of $2,500. He said $25,000 because it's going to cost more money to get her across the border and all this other stuff. He says, but we have access to all of those. And then I said, okay, how much are you renting them out per time?
Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Not just a trigger warning. This is I want to punch this fucking screen warning.
Or you've got 100,000. What about if you bring these virgins, if you have new virgins at your resort, are you going to charge a premium? He goes, oh yeah. He says, we're going to charge about $5,000 for those. Now this part's dark. You want me to go dark?
Sure.
I'm going dark.
Get us kicked off YouTube.
You can edit this part out if you want to. I said, so after that first time,
100%. Last chance to click away.
I said, how much does it drop from the first time you're renting him out as a virgin until the next time? Does it go down to 1,000 to 2,000? What does that go to? And the female trafficker said, oh, no, we can rent them out as a virgin more than once. And I said, I don't understand. How does that work? She said, well, if we make between $2,000 and $5,000 each time, she said it only costs $200 to sew back their hymen. And I thought, what the hell? What kind of world do we live in where somebody would even think that? What kind of doctor would perform an operation like that on a child? And when that little girl was in front of me, combined.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, yes, here is the link. I do not own any rights to what you just heard or seen. I take no credit for it whatsoever. That's the link right there. If you really want to get an idea, watch it. Remember, this is real. It happens more than even I could imagine. This is a real issue. Just watch it. If I've ever asked any of you to do one thing for me, seriously, watch this documentary or this interview. Watch this interview. Soft White Underbelly, Paul Hutchinson. Right there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Get to Know. Gary Glitter. The musician? The musician? Okay. Yeah, I'll check him out. But check out that link that I put in there, please, everybody. If I've asked any of you guys to do anything, please do that for me. Go watch it. I will definitely watch it, Cash. I will definitely watch it. The Execution of Gary Glitter. Keep your kids safe. Make yourself aware of what's really going on out there, guys. I'd appreciate it, Cash. I really would. That being said, have the day you deserve to have. Have the day you deserve to have, ladies and gentlemen.